In Washington, D.C., there has been a lot of development surrounding this funding for $1 billion of Iron Dome defense. If you were paying attention like a day ago, maybe 2 days ago, you had heard that the progressives stood strong and convinced people to keep it out of the continuing resolution, basically the way for our government to stay open. They stuck together on Iron Dome defense. It was like the sticking point as it was presented in the media. As if you were watching the news, you heard that the progressives want Israelis to be bombed by Palestinians. Okay, again, this is me talking about how crazy stupid this entire story is. And so that was gone because the squad stick together. Now you look at the news today and you see things like this. The squad earlier this week leveraged the urgency of raising the debt limit to withdraw $1 billion in funding for the missile defense system for the Democrats' earlier spending bill. But today that all changed. The measure cleared the House in a bipartisan vote of 420 to 9. 8 Democrats and 1 Republican voted against the funding for the missile defense system. 2 other Democrats, Hank Johnson of Georgia and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York, voted present. Adding the voted present to this already stupid messaging fiasco on all sides and cynical crappiness of mainstream media is just that little cherry of I can vote present because people in DC convince themselves it means something different is also stupid. To add on to the stupid, Mark Rod reports via Twitter, Ocasio-Cortez, who changed her vote from no to present on Iron Dome at the last minute, this is like a separate situation, appears visibly upset, appears to be crying on the House floor in a hug with Representative Jayapal. Here is the video that accompanied that. Take a look, see if you think she's crying.
Designated by Mr. Lawson of Florida, pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Mr. Lawson will vote nay on House Resolution 483 amendments. He votes nay.
As you could see, people below her on the stairs were slipping and sliding on all the tears that everyone totally saw. That's why everyone who was reporting was able to very confidently say that she appeared very distraught. Just as you could hear it over the loudspeaker, you could hear it, obviously. To add stupid onto that stupid, here's Meghan McCain's tweet about it. Theater and bad theater at that. This is Meghan McCain chiming in on the narrative that emerged from it, that after a present vote, some people were saying that it appeared AOC was crying. Something that I would contend didn't look like she was sobbing. She looked upset. Obviously she would be, but this is Meghan McCain, like once removed, like this is the derivative of the graph. Like she is commenting on as though AOC is like, look at me, I cried. And she's saying that AOC is a bad actress when that isn't even what really happened. More, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, a Democrat from Michigan who opposed the bill, called the Israeli government an apartheid regime and said the $1 billion represents, quote, an absurd and unjustifiable increase in the US funding of the Iron Dome. Just a reminder, the US has already provided $1.6 billion to Israel for Iron Dome batteries, interceptors, co-production costs, and maintenance, according to a 2020 report from the Congressional Research Service. Most of the funding for defense typically happens in a defense spending bill. So the fact that this is all in a continuing resolution is just inside politics. No one knows. I want to get into that later. And just to add dumb to dumb, here is what Rashida Tlaib said, followed immediately by what a fellow Democrat said about it.
We cannot be talking only about Israelis' need for safety at a time when Palestinians are living under a violent apartheid system and are dying from what Human Rights Watch has said are war crimes. We should also be talking about Palestinian need for security from Israeli attacks. We must be consistent in our commitment to human life, period. Everyone deserves to be safe there.
Mr. Speaker, we can have an opportunity to debate lots of issues on the House floor, but to falsely characterize the state of Israel as consistent with those, let's be clear, it's consistent with those who advocate for the dismantling of the one Jewish state in the world. And when there is no place on the map for one Jewish state, that's anti-Semitism.
At what point in Rashida Tlaib's statement did she say that we need to wipe Israel off the map? Nowhere. Your setup was completely different from your conclusion. So there's a lot of dumb happening. I do want to get into like fundamentals of politics and messaging and discipline in a second, but Ray, you seem to have a reaction to this.
One, I'm not going to make the obvious joke about that man's name. I'm not going to make it. Just imagine that I did. But quickly,
as a Jew, I'm a Jewish person. Deutsch, it means German.
That was the joke. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I know. In case you were.
One, I want to say it was, but yeah, one I want to say, Meghan McCain, shut the hell up forever. Never speak. Keep your mouth shut. Delete your Twitter account. Wholeheartedly, no one cares what you think about anything. But I mean, the claim that what Rashida Tlaib said was anti-Semitic is just so inappropriate to make. I mean, she didn't say, all she said was that we need to provide relief and assistance for Palestinian people who are suffering immensely. It's gross to say that caring for Palestinian individuals is inherently anti-Semitic, like offensive. And she as a Muslim woman is usually, her and Ilhan Omar are the targets of those claims. They don't make those same claims about other white Congress people who use the same rhetoric and say that we need to defend Palestinians or that we need to stop supporting Israel as they actively harm and occupy Palestinian land. I would go on as far as to say it's Islamophobic, or at the very least sexist towards those women. But I mean, just the disparity in the way that they are treated versus white male members of Congress who do not get that backlash is disgusting to me.
Right. It is important that I say it this way. There is a time and a place to talk about this issue of the apartheid state, as you want to call it, as some people don't want to call it, whatever, the Israel-Palestine conflict. If you are trying to pass a bill that gives universal pre-K, paid family leave, accomplishes the Joe Biden agenda, okay, what are we doing? Why are you doing that now? Okay, that is the stupid, okay? And I would also add, I don't even have full faith that when they were voting no on this line item of the budget, they were voting no on something that said Iron Dome, because message-wise, simplicity-wise, people like it simple. Deutsch knows it. Deutsch in politics, everybody is looking for, every time you see an interview with a politician, they get asked a question, they change to something else. They're changing to the easy, simple, gimme putt that they're looking for, that they know they can say very simply and easily, and that no one who's important in the voting block will call them out for and as a water roiler. And this is one of them. That guy was like, I'm just gonna say, if you don't like Iron Dome, you don't like Israel. And the squad is trying to make this like nuanced argument potentially about like defense spending and apartheid states. And there is a time for that. And there is a way to do that strategically and effectively. Right now, it is malpractice for any progressive in politics to be saying anything other than what Pramila Jayapal's out there doing. She's going out and saying, hey, and she needs to do it better. She needs to say, the Biden agenda is everything in the bipartisan bill and the reconciliation bill that we're trying to push. So we want it all. You know why? because we are supporting the president. Now, is that what they believe? Is that going to make progressives super duper happy to say that we're supporting the Biden agenda? Obviously not. But we're smarter than that, I think. Like the same way that we think we can handle this like Iron Dome discussion and funding, we're also smart enough to know that this is the tack that you need to take in order to like say something simple enough that people like the Jake Tappers of America can be like, oh, that's right. That is a good talking point. The fact that there's this whole moment in time, like 2 days where we're talking about like Iron Dome funding, that's the one thing that they're gonna do. It's so stupid that they're doing it, but they're gonna say, all right, Iron Dome, you want babies in Israel to be bombed if you don't support $1 billion in Iron Dome funding. No one's gonna bring up that there's $1.6 billion we've already spent on Iron Dome, and this is less than that. It's just such a weird moment. And then to add it, AOC voting present, never vote present, vote yes or no. No one's gonna like you for voting present. It doesn't mean anything. And that is symptomatic of how dumb it is to do that. All right, we've spent way too much time on it. We got to take our second break before we move on, but yell at me at the comments if you want to. I hope you understand that what I'm saying is simply a tactical bit of advice. Democrats need to only talk about the kinds of things that remind them that voters are with them. Talking about defense, Democrats always lose. Even if you're right, Democrats always lose. Talking about social programs, economic programs, everybody loves that. More voters love that. So you need to be disciplined and talk about that.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.